Okay, you guys, what I'm going to show you today is going to blow your mind. What we have is the mythical beast of Revelation, a dragon so large that it lays slain over the entire continental U.S. and more. So let's talk about the dragon, then we'll talk about how it got there, and then we'll talk about its possible biblical implications. So here, I'll point you to the head of the dragon so you can get a reference. We have here the head, eyeball, cranial brain structure, very similar to brain matter, just fossilized on a large scale. We have the neck, you see here, severed, as if in a battle, maybe with God, maybe with an archangel. So here we have the tail coming all the way down. Here we have a left wing with a claw at the end of it. Here we have the foot of the dragon with another claw where you would expect it to be. Here we have the right wing section coming up to another claw. Yes, another claw. So now that you can get the overall depiction, let's get into some evidence. If this is indeed a dragon, what you would expect to see here along the backbone structure would be elevated, right? So what do we have here? Right along this entire section where you would expect his backbone to be, we have elevation. How do we know it's elevation? Just look at the snow on the map and you can tell that it's a higher elevated ridge line. It's actually a elevation, a higher mountain elevation. It just happens to have snow because it's at a higher elevation. Next part, if this right wing here is truly a wing as I've suggested, and it was broken in some type of battle, you can see where the neck was cut and the wing would have been cut also. What would you expect in a section of cut wing of a dragon? I would expect, much like the hollow tube sections of a bird wing, for it to be fossilized remains of a dinosaur wing, i.e. hollow tube. So, what do we have here? Just a look at the caves of North America. And what a coincidence. Where are all the caves located in North America? Right along the broken wing section. Broken wing section, right there. So if that wasn't proof enough, we have the broken wing section, clearly caves. We have Dragon View, New Mexico. I always tell you, they like to tell you in plain sight all the time So what we have here, dragon eye. Amazing how they have all these references to dragon. Moreno Valley dragon. Quite a coincidence. There is even a place called Dragon View in Mexico. I haven't been able to find it right now. Almost like they're trying to hide it from me. But you see all the clear references to dragon in the area. Okay, so let's get back to some evidence. Now, where you would see what you would call a cut or maybe a sword blow, obviously looks like blood kind of spilt out over the land, if you can tell. What we think is red clay, red iron, looks more like blood evidence, like a forensics crime scene spilt out over the land. Also, here in the next structure, okay, let's go. So if we were to think about this was actually being an actual beast, then it would have to have some kind of proof of like veins or arteries within all this cluster. So let's go around the area where we think his heart might be, see what kind of evidence we can find. Amazing how these are so reminiscent of arterial structures, not rivers and valleys. Again, you go to the head, right by the eye, you would expect to, what would you expect to see? A head, bam, eye, head, eye. Now let's go to zoom in. More brainial matter. If this is an eye, you would expect it to lead to some type of nasal passage. So what do we have here? Eye, let's zoom in and see what kind of nasal passages or holes in the earth that would have to be in the area. Well, what do we have there? Just so happen to be a nostril. Pretty reminiscent of a dragon nostril, if you ask me. Okay. So that's evidence of the head. Now let's get back to the overall picture. So if that's a head, that's a neck. We have a broken wing section over here. We have a wing over here. At the tip of this wing, we'd expect to see a claw, which I showed you earlier. This is a foot section. We indeed expect to see a claw on the foot. Very clear claw right here. And I think for now, okay, so. Okay, what I'm going to show you now is further proof. We have here is inside the same cave system in California that's supposedly just caves, which I'm telling you are actually the broken wing section of an ancient dragon where its bones, much like a bird bones, we would expect to be hollow. So what you're going to see inside these caves, to me, is much more depicted of a inside of some type of organism. You can even see cellular structure a lot like mycelia or like lung structure, arterial structure. I'll give some comparisons, but these seem to be organic rotted, fossilized material. That is I guess the best way to put it. So here, this is inside the cave. So again, think inside the cave. You're actually physically inside the dragon itself, inside its bone structure. If not even a further structure, basically you would enter to the bone structure. So think about how this was formed. This is rotting structure from sitting out probably in the sun and the heat that eventually petrified over time. Explain to me how this formed supposedly from just minerals. Again, seems like the inside of a rotting animal that petrified over time. Here, this one is very interesting. This literally shows the pattern of bone marrow. And this is inside the actual cave itself. Bone marrow. Explain that more. Seems like something rotting over time, forming into these fossilized structures. Here, definitely. Entry to the cave. What is that? That is bone marrow. No other explanation to it. Please, somebody with some geological expertise, please tap in and give a better explanation than bone marrow for that for me, please. Again, more evidence. So, limestone, for those of you know, is made from the dead animal bones. So you would have to explain how all these, what creature was large enough to be calcified and turned into limestone over time. That's the question you have to answer. Here, again, more evidence. Limestone, calcium. It's petrified bone. Just to give you an example of an actual bone marrow so you can get a comparison. More examples of actual bone marrow, not inside the cave. Here, give you an example of inside lung structure so you can get an idea of what arteries look like. A lot of the venous structure I showed you guys earlier. All right, thank you. Leave it in the comments what you think. We're going to come back and talk about the biblical implications. If this is the actual beast of Revelations and he's already been slain, what does that actually tell us about the timeline of the Bible? And what in the world could have actually killed a beast of this proportion? Was it the hand of God itself? Was it one of the archangels? Almost seems to me a pretty clear cut sword attack. Slain dragon. Again, wing section. Head, broken neck. Let me give you one more example. So if this is indeed an eye, you would expect the elevation to be a little sunken in here in the depression of the eye. So what do we have here? You can very clearly see the elevation of the mountain range. This is an eye, people. I don't know what else to tell you. It's the eye of a dragon. Very clear venous structure. Oh, and I have one more thing I wanted to show you guys. Scales. Last piece of evidence. I'm going to show you what if we're calling this right here entry or exit wound, or some type of injury, battle scar injury. You'd expect to see some type of hole or something if that was the lethal blow that was dealt there. So let's see what we can find there. Nevertheless, what do we have? Good old Great Salt Lake, where the great gaping wounds of this dragon would be. And my final piece of evidence, I will present what could a dragon be without the scales, you say. So, in my mind, if this were a dragon, the most evidence on top of evidence that I could find would be dragon scales. And where I would find that, I would think at, is the highest elevation of places. So I would think that this region right here is where I would expect to see some scales. Can't have a dragon without scales. So, what do we have here? Let's see. Nevertheless, let's get it back this way. Scales across the landscape in a massive reptilian design. Now, you might say, oh, this is how they naturally landscape the area. But yeah, to me, that just looks like a pretty clever agricultural cover-up for what literally remains. That's dragon skin, folks. All right. More questions and comments below. Anything I missed, anything you guys like to add, please like, follow, or subscribe. Until next time. Belly of the Beast.